So do you wanted just Guru Maharaj's Smarana, or it's also the communication? Because we don't have to understand. Okay. Anyway, so I was requested to mention a few things about His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj. I was just recently in Delhi after he had some health issues and he had to be admitted into a specialized hospital just to prevent any problems, any further problems. Anyway, so Maharaj and prabhu asked me to come to help to do some service there. There was a meeting regarding his health and how to assist him with his service, etc. But anyway, as usual, he was very enthusiastic about his service. He says that there are three things that he always have enthusiasm to talk about, to work on. His priorities are congregational preaching, developing or helping the congregations in his country develop. He is the ISKCON Minister for Congregational Development. Mayapur, that's also another of his priorities close to his heart. Mayapur project, Prabhupada personally gave him that service. And the other one is Chaitanya Lila. Right? So I was there for a few days with him, and I could see that despite sometimes some inconveniences, some uncomfortable situations with the bodies and the tests and things like that, he was always very enthusiastic about these three things. Apart from that, or within that, he's always very keen to be in contact with the devotees. So the devotees gave me some services, but the main one that I always relish is to report or pass to him some of the letters and messages that the devotees send. Right? So anyway, after first couple of days, then it was agreed that I will present some reports and things like that. And I could see that one thing he will become very enlightened when the devotees will send information about how the programs are going. And particularly because it was Damodar month starting, Kartik was starting. So discussing with him, he put out a challenge for the devotees to start doing more and more Damodar programs. So devotees from all over the world start doing more. This what you are the champions of the Damodar program here in KL or Malaysia in general. It's like top. So he was very happy to hear. So although the doctors were coming and going, the nurses in and out, and he had to take medicines, he had to do a whole, program there. Still, as soon as he saw me, he would ask me, so what's the report? They were taking sometimes blood samples and, a lot of all these things that happens in hospitals. And he's supposed to sleep at a certain time, eat at a certain time, everything very regulated so he can rest. Things can be good for him. But still, he will push it. What's that better? I would say something, for an example, someone wrote from Argentina saying that this devotee is not even his disciple, but she has gone through some rough times. So briefly I said the essence of the letter. And so I just mentioned that. And she mentioned a few things. This is 20 years back. Right? This is 94, 95. Right? So he was just listening. So I'm thinking in the back of my mind, maybe he doesn't remember. This Mate, she's not his disciple. And she was there, partying, later took initiation from another spiritual master. And then things happened. And then once she mentioned in her letter that he was in Peru doing some programs, preaching, and she happened to be there and had the chance to tell him a little about her problems. Okay. So then I read the letter, and he didn't say anything, and he took dinner. And then I could see that he was thinking. He was just trying to go back. This is 19, 20 years back. And I didn't know what, to keep asking him about that, or he was thinking about something else. Because with Guru Maharaj, many things happen at the same time. GBC meetings happening in Tirupati. There's some decisions being made in Mayapur. Right? So he wants to be part of that. Something else is being created here and there. Damodar program is going on. Letters coming left and right. So sometimes I don't know what is he thinking of. But I could see that he was thinking. Then he said, is that devotee my Shiksha disciple? And I thought to myself, I thought most probably not. I said, I don't know Guru Maharaj, but I can ask. Anyway, this is just I want to give a little sample of his memory and how seriously he takes taking care of Krishna and devotees. So I wrote rapidly to this Mate. He said, he mentioned this. So the next morning, she said, actually, that time in Peru, when I told him about some problems, he said, I can instruct you. I can give you shiksha if you want to. And you can ask Guru Maharaj if that's all right with you. So she wrote back all that. So I told Guru Maharaj, I said, actually, you are. She is your shiksha disciple. And she's surprised how you remember this. This happened in 94 or 95. She's like, wow, how can he remember? How he can even remember me, what to speak. Remember that instance. But I could see his, like the, CPUs, sometimes you see computers, they're like going, they're pushing. So he was really thinking, like going back in time, opening all the files. So he remembered that this Mate that wasn't even his disciple, disciple. And I got so many others. Letters were coming. Anyway, this is just a sample that for him, being with the devotees is the highest pleasure. We were in Mayapur, what was this? Before Nishinga Chaturdasi, around that time, when he again had some health problems. And were you there, Martin? Were you there? You were there for Nishinga Chaturdasi, right?
Yes.
Anyway, so there were some issues also around his health. So there was a whole arrangement for him to stay good 3 months, but at least we got 1 month at that time. So some doctors came from the south, Coimbatore from somewhere. Anyway, so that night, just like this time in Delhi, there was another meeting. He's like a big warrior that, all the secretaries, servants, whatever, we gang up against him, trying to stop him from traveling, ask him to stay in one place. But he's so we always say, the Latin American devotees, we say that he's like a super expert soccer player, football or soccer star. So these soccer players, I don't want to spoil the atmosphere, but they get the ball and they got 3-5 defense players, right? And he seems to not know what to do, but he's just gaining time, what to, where, how. And then by the time we start discussing, okay, Guru Maharaj, this, that, he's already halfway around the world. So anyway, that night, the devotees from Middle East were there. Srila, I think, Bhakti Purushasana Swami was called, and a few others from Namahata, Gauranga Prem Maharaj. So they called me. They said, it's going to be a meeting. We're going to get him now. So we were there. So we were in the thick of the discussions. Guru Maharaj, your health, this, that, the other. So the devotees in Mayapur, they have what you call blown up, printed, large. It's a photo of Prabhupada walking, and on top there are a few lines of a letter that Prabhupada sent to Guru Maharaj. And it says something like, I have it on my phone. It says something, the reason of your health or your disease or something like that is that you are working too hard. That's what the letter says. I think it's 70 something. The reason of your disease is that you're working too hard. Take enough rest, stay in Mayapur, and work through your assistance. So the devotees cheekily have printed, large print, big, like 1/3 of that. It's big there. So it's Prabhupada and what Prabhupada said. And at the bottom says, Srila Prabhupada letter, Jayapataka. So every time there is some issues like that, we go, Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada is saying. So anyway, so there was a whole thing, it was like a chess game. So Ekana Prabhu was saying something, Mahavara Prabhu was saying something, Bhakti Krishna was saying something, they all saying something. So it was funny because one of the push that was done that night is for him to go to Coimbatore to stay there. Because we were trying to tackle him, whether stay in Mayapur or stay in Coimbatore, but stay. So every time we say, stay in Mayapur, because Prabhupada said, then he will say, yeah, but they're waiting for me in Birmingham, they're waiting for me in Russia, this and that, if we go like this, we go like that, then he's like in his mind, he's already making how many days, the doctor says this, the neurologist said that, in Los Angeles, he was like, and we were really trying hard to convince him to stay. So then, finally, he was leading us to conclude that the best place to stay is in Coimbatore. So he was so we were all putting our guards down because he said, okay, Coimbatore, are you ready? Then finally we said, okay, so you can stay from there maybe you can go to Malaysia and give quick this and that. And then he pointed at it. He says, Prabhupada said, I stay in Mayapur, why you said we need to Coimbatore? We all scratching our heads. And then, anyway, so he was saying, they're waiting for me in Europe, they're waiting for me in Russia. Even the Australians are getting worried, the South Americans are getting worried. I don't want to send this message that, I cannot travel, I cannot visit, I'm already, So anyway, so people were getting frustrated. And then one devotee said, I think Srila from Middle East, he said, Guru Maharaj, from now on with your health, in your condition, you have to empower through your assistant. He says, Prabhupada said you should empower your assistant. So all what you need to do is just appoint some devotees on your behalf, go and travel and do your work. And then he said, and then he pointed at Bhakti Purushottam Swami. and then Srila Prabhu said, so Maharaj, you can go on his behalf. And Bhakti Purushottam Swami says, I cannot run like Guru Maharaj. Look at me. I'm so weak. I'm getting old. I'm getting sick after 2-3 days after I start getting sick, I cannot go. And then Guru Maharaj just start laughing. So you see, Prabhupada is telling me to work through my assistants. But my assistants don't want to do it, cannot do it. So it was like back and forth. Anyway, finally he agreed to stay in my for a month. So, some of you know Guru Maharaj for a long, long time. And we have seen this amazing personality. The Shastra says that it's impossible to withstand the mind of a Vaishnava. And Guru Maharaj is no one better to exemplify, to personify that statement. Because it's just simply possible. On one hand, I remember, this is in 86, he was in Quito, the capital of Ecuador. And at that time, was the first time that we were doing a very big program. This is the capital of the country. So the president of the country was invited to that program. Big hall, we got, I don't know how we did it, but anyway, so we got a big hall and the best hotel. And so Marichi Prabhu was there, Seva, Divya, so many others, Prabhu. So we were inviting ambassadors and people like that. So we wanted to create a strong impact for Krishna consciousness. Anyway, so it was a big program, and we were busy running, doing things. So the president didn't come, but his wife came. So the first lady came and the daughter, I remember. So it was full-on program. And Quito is quite cold. It's up in the mountains. So we left the program, it would be maybe 1 o'clock, nearly 1 o'clock, so that the program was close to, we have hired a hotel room. And so we were taking him, so he didn't realize we were taking him to the hotel room. And this is like very expensive, we couldn't even pay our rent. But somehow we were, had a super, I don't know how you call this, super room, like it's most expensive. And then halfway he says, "Where are you taking me?" And he says, "Oh, I'm taking you to this nice room." He says, "No, I want to stay with the devotees. I don't want to stay in a hotel room." And he said, "Yeah, Guru Maharaj, in the temple we haven't arranged, this is the arrangement." He says, I'm a sannyasi, I can't sleep on the floor. And there was a Prabhupada disciple, an original secretary. So he said, No, Jayapataka, you're going to stay in the temple because we don't have a bed for you. And then he said, that's okay. I'm sure you can arrange for a sleeping bag. So there was Divya, So Divya Matri was at the back and she said, I can lend you my sleeping bag. And Guru Maharaj stopped. And he said, okay, done. We all shocked, But anyway, so finally we persuaded him and a number of devotees to stay there. He didn't want to stay alone for sure. And somebody offered it and he said, no, at least 2 or 3 devotees. I don't want to. Anyway, he stayed that night and they said he wanted to something in the temple. When we were going, it was very cold. And he started sneezing. And I remember he said this. He turned around, he was kind of upset with us. 2, 3 devotees we were serving him. He said, the duty of the disciple is to take care of the body of the spiritual master. And the duty of the spiritual master is to take care of the spiritual life of the disciples. He didn't have a cane at the time, but he stopped and we didn't know. I mean, some of the devotees didn't even speak English at the time. Guru Maharaj didn't speak Spanish, or that much Spanish at that time. So I couldn't understand. And I said, so Guru Maharaj, what do you need? He says, where's my hat? He says, my hat. So I remember running to the hotel to get the hat and back. So the point is that our duty as disciples is that we care for his body. And as I wrote in one of the